Welcome to Bachelor, a podcast so educational two professors could be hosting it. Hi, I'm Dr. Danielle McGeough, and joining me is Dr. Bill Henneman. Welcome to Bachelor, Danielle and co-host Kim here, and we're going to jump right into things this week. The question for the week, I feel like, is on theme. I felt like The Bachelor tried very hard this week to have a body positive-ish,
maybe.
Well, we'll talk about that message. So I thought I would start by saying, what is something about your appearance that you like? And what is something quirky about other people's appearances that you like?
I think something on my appearance that I like is my smile. I paid a lot of money for it. I've had braces twice, so I feel like I should say that my smile is something that I like the most. Other people say they like my hair. I have a love-hate relationship, as I'm sure you do as well. I have a love-hate relationship with my hair, but I like my smile. And something quirky about other people's appearances. I think I'm actually an admirer of hair because I'm always fast because I don't know how to do hair. I wake up, I shower, I put gel in, and I go, and it looks different every day. And I love that other people like take time, do their hair, straighten it, curl it, do all these amazing updos. I don't know how to, I don't care to learn to. So I would say, I don't know if hair is quirky, but I think people can do really fun hairstyles. So I would say hairstyles.
I like it. So I like my skin and my neck.
Oh.
I feel like nothing about me could pass as ballerina, but my neck, I have a long, slender neck. Nothing else about me meets that qualification. And then I like my skin, even though I can definitely tell that I'm starting to age. But I like my skin. And quirky things about other people's, I love wild hair. On any gender, sex, wild hair, I'm there for it. I also, this isn't really a body part, but I really like glasses. I think glasses are super sexy. And I think I like it when like someone's really attractive, but they have like ugly feet or something. I think it's adorable.
I think a lot of people have ugly feet.
I think that feet are maybe just kind of ugly. But like, I think that like juxtaposition of like someone like looking really great everywhere else and then having like really funky feet, it's like simultaneously gross and adorable.
Especially if they wear sandals all the time and don't like, if you're just in shoes or boots all the time, it doesn't really matter what your feet look like because only a select few people are going to see it. So when I lived in Boston, there's a lot of open-toed feet situations on public transportation year round. I'm always shocked by how many people wear sandals in Boston in January. Like it's cold and there's snow on the ground. But there's some gnarly feet that I was witness to. And people who would clip their toenails and fingernails on the tee, which don't do that, please, ever.
Oh, that's a no, I don't. I mean, I'm all about, time management and your time to your best, but I will say I set a boundary with cutting your toenails in public. Really, just stop there. Okay, well, that was exciting.
That was good.
I think bodies are totally fascinating and weird and gross and wonderful and a pain in the butt. So I'll get us started with a quick 2-minute recap. I'll start off by saying the only thing I really want to talk about is shrimp. And I'm quite sure that shrimp got more screen time this episode than Clayton did on Michelle's season of The Bachelor. So
100%.
Bachelor data, if you could whip up the info on that, I feel like my inclination might be right, but yeah. Okay, so I'll do my best to summarize this mess. So this episode starts with a sizzle. Cassidy is feeling spicy and everyone in the mansion knows it. Sierra, and really everyone else except for Shanae, is not having Cassidy's BS. And she turns up the heat by revealing that Cassidy has a friend with benefits back at home who she FaceTimed right before getting into the limo. And rumor has it that she's using the show as a way to make him jealous.
Always a good idea.
So juicy. So juicy. So Sierra lets Clayton know about this scandal, giving him something to gnaw on. See what I'm doing here, folks?
I like it.
Shrimp. Okay, so Clayton confronts Cassidy and she denies it. She's clearly walking on eggshells. She tries to come clean, but she's toast and she knows it. So, Clayton at this point is like, you've broken my trust, and he takes her rose away. A rose removal. This is a big deal. Can you think of any other rose removals, Kim?
Not in the seasons that I've seen. I think there have been many times the rose should have been taken away, but I don't believe I've ever seen it in action on The Bachelor or in real life. I've never seen someone take back like a bouquet of flowers or something.
Oh, this is drama. I mean, this is like a big moment. And then, so we kind of get past everything going on with Cassidy, and we move to the group date. And because the producers have an appetite for destruction and a weak code of ethics, they decide to have a group therapy session as the next date. And Caitlin Bristow is leading this session.
Not a licensed therapist.
Not a licensed therapist, near to my knowledge. While she has experience with Dancing on the Stars, she does not have a counseling license or anything close to that. But they do offer us a content warning, so I guess they're absolved. Is that how that works? So compulsory disclosure begins. There's a lot of talk about bodies, which feels really weird to me, given recent accusations that The Bachelor refused to cast a girl for being a size 6. But we can talk about that later. Eliza ends up getting the group date rose, and back at the mansion, we learn that Sarah will have the next one-on-one. So we flip to the next day with the one-on-one there, and so they begin this date by having them go for a jog in their underwear
through downtown Los Angeles.
Yes. I mean, did nobody listen to the group therapy session? I don't understand this. Sarah, near the end of their date, she talks about being adopted. Clayton responds in a very sort of cookie cutter way. Back at the mansion, shrimp happens. Shrimp happens. Elizabeth makes shrimp, and she decides to share it with everyone, including Shanae, which feels like a she's offering an
olive branch.
Yes, an olive branch. Thank you.
Olive branch. Yes,
an olive branch. So Shanae eats a lot of shrimp, and then she does go back and she makes more and she tries to share it, but nobody's taking it really. So real recipe for disaster here. The group date. So then we move on to the group date with this like shrimp drama bubbling up. And they start the group date with some lifeguard training and some Baywatch themed swimsuits. So again, some sort of like body focused theme happening here, but I don't know. I feel like they're confusing body positivity with objectification, but we'll talk about that later. Shanae very awkwardly makes out with Clayton in front of everyone. Gabby is adorable and very good at slow-mo. I like feel like I want to practice slow-mo now. Shanae, yeah.
So I'm a slow runner. So I'm just gonna say that when I am running, I'm running on a beach, and embrace the slow-mo running when I'm just running regularly. And then people will think I'm on Baywatch, probably.
Do you flip your hair while you run?
I will start.
I think you should. I hope that I like see you out on Green Hill Road or something, like just like flipping your hair. If you're
when it's windy, it's in my face anyway, so it's kind of whipping back and forth.
I'll give you extra points if you're out jogging in a bright red bathing suit.
That I won't do.
That you will not do. So Shanae, I think, feels left out. You know, it's like, oh, like Gabby's getting attention. And so to kind of create equilibrium, she decides that she needs to go and cry to Clayton, and she claims that she's being bullied. He buys it, and then he talks to Elizabeth, who's getting really sort of fed up with this stuff. In fact, all of the girls are. But despite all of the girls being fed up with this, like nobody really like, I don't know. You're like, why doesn't somebody, I don't like, you know,
say something.
Yeah, say something. But anyway, so Gabby ends up getting the group date rose. And we're left with this cliffhanger of Clayton saying that he plans to address it the next day. And I'll sort of say, I think that we're going to end up having a double date between Shanae and Elizabeth where one of them goes home. Like, but that's my predictions here. So we're going to take a little bit of time, pull these ingredients apart, and give our listeners some food for thought.
Nice food analogies. Multiple. A+.
I'm hungry for it.
Chef's kiss.
Okay. So Kim, the first thing that I want to talk about is this Cassidy situation and trust.
Yeah.
All right. So clearly, like, Clayton should not trust Cassidy. But that being said, do you think that like something like FaceTiming a friends with benefits right before the show is like worthy of a break of trust?
So I actually, I wrote down, are they not, is there a rule that says once you are in the queue to be on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, you are not allowed to talk to anyone ever at all, and from the time you get selected through whatever their selection process is to when they show up for their time at the mansion or hotel or wherever they are filming for the first week or so? Because I don't trust her. And I even think, like, has she ever, I just don't know that she's ever had to work for a guy's attention. And she seemed genuinely shocked that he would be upset that she was talking to somebody else. But I also am genuinely shocked that it's an issue that she was talking to somebody else. Because if he was a friend with benefits, which is such a cop-out phrase anyways, he was still a friend before, and you can talk to friends. Now, if they're sleeping together, great, good for you, you get yours. But if you're going on to The Bachelor, you probably shouldn't be sleeping with somebody else right before you go on. And if you're using The Bachelor to make said friend with benefits jealous, that relationship is toxic and you shouldn't be in it in the first place.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think yes to that. Well, because I was trying, it was so hard because I wanted to think about this outside the context of Cassidy, and I like couldn't, because Cassidy's like awful.
Yes.
Both her and Shanae really feel to me like horrible girls I could have gone to high school with. Right? Like, and they felt like there's something about them too. I do not remember where they are from, but like they also feel like they could be like small town Iowa girls to me.
Shanae is from a small town in Ohio.
Okay.
And let me pull up my spreadsheet real fast. What I wrote is this Women Tell All is going to be wild, because these women they have no concept that they're terrible, like they're mean. They do not understand that they're mean women. And I think that when if they show up for the Women Tell All, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Well, it's different than like someone like Queen Victoria, who you kind of feel you're like, you're not well, but like you also sort of feel like she kind of knows what she's doing. And here's the thing.
These girls are just toxic.
They're so manipulative, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Cassidy is from Los Angeles, according to her bio.
Okay. Well, and it's just like an interesting thing, because I think they know what they're doing too, but they don't understand how bad they look. Where like I felt like Victoria understood that a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But you know, I can see her line being definitely should be a deal breaker in this situation, because it's clear that she was like trying to deny things and then like she kind of came clean. But I was sort of like, if she wasn't her, I was like trying to think if somebody was like, well, like, would this be the same sort of a deal breaker as it is with her? And I was sort of struggling to process through that, because I was just having a hard time detaching it from the situation. But
I don't know.
Here's one thing that I'm sort of struggling with Clayton. He's getting criticized a lot for like, because he's kind of a dope, right? Like you're kind of like, dude, like, how are you not aware of some of these things? And then we just had sorry, my husband's calling me, and I don't know if I
saw a tweet that he wrote after Monday night's episode that said, I had no idea any of this was happening while the show was going on. And my thought was, do you not talk to the crew, or are you not allowed to ask the crew what's going on when you're not on camera?
I don't know. Or like, if you just like, maybe you don't want to, or like you want to sort of like trust the process and you don't want like other people's perceptions of things to kind of come into things. But like, I also feel like what's so interesting to me is Michelle was so good at holding boundaries. And I think that people, and I've sort of felt like maybe Clayton is the opposite, and that like he's like almost like a Pilot Pete who just like doesn't know how to set any boundaries. But that's not really fair, because like he does take a Rose away and send her home. You know, so like there are ways in which I actually think he is like sending people home that need to be sent home. There's just something about the way that he's gone about it. And it's like, think of how long Queen Victoria was on.
Yeah.
Right? And so like, it's interesting because I actually think he's like making decisions quicker than we've seen in a lot of past episodes, but it feels so more loosey-goosey than it did with say Michelle. And so I've been trying to sort of like process what it is about his communication style, but I just feel like I still don't think that we've like gotten to know Clayton, and he just feels like his responses feel so like canned or prepared, or like it's like he isn't letting down and showing us himself.
Well, and I keep having this thought as I watch the show, like they keep talking about they're in love with him and they just feel all this magic for him. And I keep going, how, where? We haven't seen, like you just said, we haven't really seen much personality out of him that would make me think, man, I want to spend the rest of my life with this guy. And I don't, if they're not showing it, then why is he on the show? Like, you've got to show some of that stuff, I feel, to get people invested in him, especially since there were so many people annoyed with his casting in the first place. They're not doing a very good job of showing why he was chosen as the Bachelor, other than
absolutely
safe
not.
white guy.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, it does seem like the ending in particular gets pretty dramatic, but I really feel like maybe he is this really like dynamic and genuine and like sweet guy, but you think that they would also cast someone that they felt was ready to show that on camera, and he is not it.
And I feel like there are other safe white guys in Michelle's season that they could have cast instead that would portray that. Absolutely. None of their names come to mind right now because I've already forgotten everyone on that show except for Rodney, because I love Rodney. But yeah, I still don't get why he was chosen. I don't see it.
This must be, maybe that's what's drawing us in, right? Like the mystery isn't who he selects at the end. The mystery of this season is
why he was.
Yes. Will we ever know why Clayton is our Bachelor? So let's talk a little bit about body image and compulsory self-disclosure. So let's start and talk a little bit about the forced self-disclosure. So I teach a lot around something called autoethnography. I'll give like a really quick lesson. Auto meaning self, ethnography, if you break it down, ethno meaning culture, graphy meaning writing. So it's writing about culture through oneself. And I spend a lot of time making my classroom a place where people can share stories, share parts of themselves, and I see that as an opportunity for like learning. But one thing I always think about is like, you do have an obligation to create an environment in which people feel comfortable doing it. And ultimately, like it does need to be consensual, right? Like they need to feel like they aren't just like trapped in a class and need a grade.
Yeah.
They need to, and if they want to opt out and explore, like they get to choose what they disclose and don't. I'm so uncomfortable with the way that they're doing these dates, not only because they don't have a licensed therapist. I'm hoping that maybe they do, and that person's just like not on camera.
But that person should be on camera, because a lot of people who watch this show probably could benefit from seeing a licensed therapist. And if they show one on the show that is caring and comforting and listening to all of these stories, it might motivate someone who could really benefit from talking to someone, going and talking to someone.
Well, one of the things that I was like thinking about is I'm a huge fan of story circles, and story circles are often not led by licensed professionals. And a lot of times there's prompt for story circles that could bring up really personal and vulnerable stories. Almost always at story circles, you do provide information for therapy or counseling if someone would need it. Sometimes you might even have a licensed person at the story circle, but like not always. But like I do think that one of the biggest differences between those situations is that you come to a story circle and you have like chosen to be there, right? You're like, where this felt so captive. They're just like selected to go on a date. They don't know what the date's going to be. they're in this room. It's like a competition. You feel like if you don't disclose that, that is going to hurt probably your chances at connecting. And then the idea that just because you might want to disclose something to Clayton doesn't mean you want to disclose it in front of the rest of these girls.
Yep. Right. And they only showed a couple of the women, because obviously they don't have time to show what everybody shared. So did those women give permission to have their story shared? Or was it all up to the editors who disclosed to America what some of these women have experienced? Because like Hunter's story with her ridiculous ex-boyfriends, I'm appalled that they showed it, but I hope that if someone else in that situation currently heard that story, they saw themselves and saw that they needed to get out as well. But also, I hope they got Hunter's permission to share that story before they shared it. And I truly feel like they did not. I do. Well, and I suppose you have to sign a waiver when you start, like anything you say will be put out for America, which is, but I feel like that's different than eating shrimp in your bathing suit where they have to black out your butt because your swimsuit is so skimpy that they can't show it on television.
Right. Well, and I think that, like, is this like, being vulnerable? Yes, but does vulnerability sort of lead to trust and connection, and can it propel a relationship? Absolutely. But I do think that there's something different between like, I'm having a one-on-one conversation with a person that I'm dating, and I, spontaneously, or maybe even not spontaneously, maybe very intentionally choose to share a part of yourself, feels very, very different than like, we're going to like share in this group setting where like it feels mandatory to share. Even if they say it's not mandatory, it feels mandatory. I don't know that this would pass IRB, folks. It's like, I don't.
Nothing passes IRB.
Amen. But so I think that I just like, I one hand respect that the show is trying to bring to light important issues. I respect that the show remembered to have a content warning. I just still feel like there's something that feels morally and ethically icky about then being a voyeur to this as well. Like as an audience member, it feels very voyeuristic and icky. But okay, so I want to talk a little bit about body positivity, because I felt like the show was like trying to say, look at like Clayton and some of these, women have had some insecurities around body image. Like, this is an opportunity to teach about self-acceptance and body positivity. Like, what were your thoughts about this? And yeah, what were your thoughts about this?
I appreciated that Clayton talked about his own personal body issues as a teenager growing up, because I know a lot of boys who got made fun of for being a little on the bigger side as 13 and 14-year-olds who then like grew a 1.5 feet their freshman year in high school, and the weight distributed, and and then all of a sudden they were like gorgeous high school boys, right? Like I don't think we talk enough about male body positivity and male body image. And I think like you go back to the like dad bod, like they talk about the dad bod. Like, is that like, why do we have to talk about the dad bod versus the gym bod? Like, dads come in all sizes, just like moms come in all sizes. Men come in all sizes, just like women come in all sizes. And so I appreciated that they had him on there, but I also like his talking about it after Hunter was talking about having to change her hair and get different colored contacts and go to the gym to keep her body at a certain weight for some guy. I would rather have Clayton sitting around with a group of other former Bachelor contestants talking about their junior high experiences than have Clayton talk about it and with these women who all, and Lord knows what some of the other stories were about too. I don't know. This whole thing rubbed me the wrong way. It's not the right venue. It's not the right place. It's not the right time. And if you're talking about body image, and I know we're going to transition into this, do not follow it almost immediately by running around half naked and then running around in swimsuits where we notice, and maybe we'll talk about this later, but we noticed during the Baywatch group date when Gabby was running toward the lifeguard tower with Clayton, they put CGI extra red on her butt to cover her butt more when she's running, because the swimsuit bottoms, and they, as a new Baywatch observer, I can confirm this, the backs of Baywatch swimsuits are so tiny that they had to CGI bigger swimsuit bottoms onto the girls when they were showing them running away from camera. So that part of the episode completely negates this part of the episode, I think.
Oh yeah, it just felt like really like they missed the boat, right? It was like you had this opportunity, you tried to say something, and then you followed it up with the objectification of folks. Yeah. So I want to talk, so one, body positivity has been critiqued, and it's sort of like a newer movement called body neutrality is kind of coming about, has been about, I should say. And so one of the critiques of body positivity is that while it's like, yes, like think like the Dove advertisements, I'm going to age myself here a little bit, where they show all these different bodies. The idea is that, like, you know, big is beautiful, that cellulite is beautiful, stretch marks are beautiful, things like that. It has sort of been critiqued because it still is placing like an emphasis on appearance. And so there's kind of like a movement called body neutrality, where it's like, I love my body because like my body runs for me. I love my body because y'all, my husband just brought me coffee and donuts. So you can say hi to the podcast. Nice. That's my cute husband with wild hair and glasses.
That's why you like glasses.
So body positivity, body neutrality is this idea that in some ways, like, you love your body because like it does things for you and affords you like opportunities and experiences and things like that, not necessarily because your body looks good. And so, and I sort of like, I'm at the moment very aware of sort of the irony of how we started this podcast and me just talking about my hot husband. But like, I just, you know, like, I think that that's something that I've been sort of like thinking about as well. And I will say, having recently done some research on bodies and body image, what you were saying, Kim, about men, we are hearing more stories about men, but men are also showing, statistically speaking, having more eating disorders than in the past. Muscle dysmorphia is an issue where the idea that like they might not see their bodies realistically and trying to have like extreme amounts of muscle, things like that can lead to different sort of disorders. So, and a lot of that's also connected, I will say, to like social media use. You see a lot of research on adolescents and selfies and posting on social media is oftentimes more like the more time spent doing those things is connected to increases in dissatisfaction around body image. That being said, the internet's also a really amazing place where you see a lot of fat activism. you see communities where for many people, for example, I'm just going to say with fat bodies, like they have communities online where they can see other bodies like them, where like they might not be able to find that through traditional, like we might think like traditional medias, like magazines, things like that. So I don't know, all of this is to say it's interesting. The Bachelor tried to do some things, felt like they missed the boat, and loving your body and feeling secure in your body is not the same as running around naked through.
No. And I want to put 2 plugs in real quick before we go on to concept number 3. So one, a podcast that I listen to that I absolutely love is called Maintenance Phase. And I highly recommend everyone listen to it. It comes out every other Tuesday and it's fantastic. It has 2 hosts and they break down a lot of different concepts. They break down how BMI is total bunk. They break down how like Weight Watchers is problematic. They break down how like QAnon came out of a lot of health focused folks. It's a great podcast. I really enjoy listening to it. It's very well researched, which I also appreciate. And then, oh gosh, did I already forget what the second thing was? I might have forgot what this. Oh, no, I didn't. Hello. I like that some of the online shops are now showing you the clothing in different option sizes. So you can select, you want to see it on a person that's wearing it as a small, you can see it as a person wearing it as a large, and you can see a person wearing it as like a XL or a 2XL. So you can see what the outfit looks like on a body that is similar to yours. And there, which, you know, everybody's hips and boobs and thighs and waists all are adjust differently no matter what the number is that is on the tag that you wear. But it's, I think if more stores could do that, I think that would be really beneficial as well. So you can see, oh wow, that will look kind of like this if I buy it, instead of, oh, I bought it as looking on a size 0 model, and guess what, I'm not a size 0 and it doesn't look like that on me, and now I'm sad and depressed and I'm gonna go be sad and depressed. So I like that more and more shops are doing that. So keep doing that, shops, and more shops do that.
Absolutely. I will second that. And I want to listen to that podcast, Maintenance Phase.
Very good.
I'm in. Okay, so concept 3 that we're going to talk about today is bullies and shrimp. So, okay, I realize that this isn't totally PC, but like whatever. I want to talk about cray, Shanae. Okay, did she deserve shade for eating all the shrimp? Give me your
yes.
opinion. Yes.
So I don't know, maybe she's an only child, but you do not go into the kitchen. And I'm the youngest, so I always got whatever was left at the bottom of the pan anyways. I act like I grew up in like Dickensian London. There was always food. It's fine. But like, you don't take, and she was like looking at people as they had the counter going, as she took like 9, I think she ended up taking 9 shrimp, which is rude. I don't think Elizabeth made enough shrimp for that many people in the house. You need to make, if you're going to make shrimp, you need to make shrimp for all, unless half of those girls are vegan or don't like shellfish, but you make enough for how many people you expect to eat it. And I don't think if you make 16 shrimp, you're expecting everyone to eat 1 shrimp. But Shanae did that on purpose. And I think it's rude. And I love shrimp. And I think shit was rude. And I would be put out if someone made shrimp and I didn't get any, because then it smells like deliciousness and you can't eat it. And that makes me sad.
So I was kind of torn because, like you said, I think that Elizabeth just didn't make enough shrimp. I was like, I felt like I needed to know more of the context, because I do think that Shanae ate more than her fair share of shrimp. But I also was like, how much shrimp were people supposed to eat? Like 9 shrimp, depending on the size of them, is not that many shrimp.
Well, and we know that there was more. I love how much we're going to say the word shrimp in this. We know there was more shrimp because Shanae was able to make more shrimp without having to go send somebody to the market, I assume. So I almost feel like it was a plot developed by the producers to make drama on the show, but they wouldn't do that, would they?
If I was a producer, I would be like, you know what will make great TV?
Shrimp
drama. I mean, it's so ridiculous. I mean, I did feel like she was getting snubbed a little bit after she made more shrimp. They did like end up taking it, but you kind of felt like people were ignoring her a little bit. The thing that's so hard about this is, okay, one, Shanae, you ain't being bullied, girlfriend.
You are the bully.
Yes, being snubbed after you've been totally ridiculous is like people setting healthy boundaries for themselves around you. Like, and like being snubbed is not like one time is not the same as being bullied. Yeah.
It's not as if they were bringing up her mental health issues over and over and over and over on national television. That's bullying, and that's what she does.
Like, oh my gosh. So I think that like my biggest, oh my gosh, Shanae moment is when she goes and she cries to Clayton. And then afterwards, when she's like processing it, she's like, I had him. And you're like, oh, like you're even like willing to admit your manipulation, but you don't get how problematic that is.
I wrote down her exact quote because I don't think Shanae is here for the right reasons. And she said, oh my God, he believed me. I have him. I was good. I was so good. That's not a healthy thing for a healthy person to say.
No, like that is you going,
he believed me. Which
I know
means
that
she's lying and she's acting, and not well.
She knows that she's acting. And I think the most disturbing part is that she's willing to admit it and she doesn't see what's wrong with it. It's like both her and Cassidy are so obsessed with the like competitive component of this. And like they just see that as, yes, this is like sort of a competition, but like they see that as like so inherent to this that they don't see any ethical qualms.
So every time she says something so junior high, immature-ish, I keep in my brain going, she's 29. She is 29 years old. What is going on with her that she thinks this way at 29 years old?
Because Cassidy was awful, but Shanae is like
thrives on it.
Well, and it's like a little bit also that she like kind of her weird like almost like worship of Cassidy, and like, I mean, get this girl a good therapist. I didn't realize she was 29. So Kim, tell me about Baywatch.
Yes. Okay. Let me center myself. I'm super excited about this. So the show was on for 11 seasons from 1989 to 2001. And I never watched a single episode of it while it was on, but I remember it was definitely in the zeitgeist. Like, you knew what Baywatch was. I always thought that Pamela Anderson was on it the whole time. She was not. And so I decided to watch a few episodes and learn more about the world of Baywatch. And I'm so excited to share the world of Baywatch with you and our listeners. Did you watch Baywatch?
No, I don't think, I mean, I think that there are probably some times that it like ended up on my TV, like, but I don't recall like sitting down and like watching it. And it wasn't like a show that I was like, oh, like Friends is on or something like that, where like you
Right.
sat down, I like watched.
Right.
So I have like some memories of it. My high school boyfriend was like obsessed with Pam Anderson and I'm quite sure had like a Baywatch poster in his bedroom.
Yeah.
And that like feels significant.
Yeah. Well, allow me to take you on a little journey I like to call Baywatch. Huh, who knew? So I'm speaking as an expert, having watched the pilot episode, which was an hour and a half long, and the first 3 episodes after the pilot. So I have watched 4 episodes of Baywatch, and and then I Googled a bunch of stuff because, hello. And first of all, I want to say that the baby oil budget on this show had to have been astronomical, because they are constantly in a state where they're supposed to look sweaty. And maybe they were sweaty because they were filming it on the beaches of Los Angeles County, right? So they were probably sweaty, but they were sweaty in a way that's like glistening, not like standing in the heat. And the LA heat is different from like Louisiana heat, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's the humidity thing isn't really a thing out there. So my first comment is the baby oil budget had to have been astronomical. Now, the pilot episode is laid out like a Lifetime movie where you are introduced to the season 1 cast, which includes David Hasselhoff, in his post Knight Rider glory, and he goes between wearing the tiny little red shorts, chestless, with late 80s, early 90s chest hair to the stars, and then a bunch of other people. Now, Parker Stevenson might not be a name that everybody recognizes. He was on the Hardy Boys in the 70s, which is before our time, but I actually recognized him. So there was this epic Civil War miniseries on in the 80s called North and South, starring Mr. Patrick Swayze. And I actually own it. It was 3 separate miniseries over the course of like 6 years. And I actually own it on DVD because it's so campy and wonderful. And Parker Stevenson was in that. So immediately when he walked onto the set of Baywatch, I went, oh, it's Parker Stevenson. So he's in it. And then Erica Eleniak, who was, I'll get back to her, who, if you ever watched the movie version of the Beverly Hillbillies, she played Ellie Mae Clampett in the movie version of the Beverly Hillbillies, which came out in the early 90s as well. I'm really aging myself in my description of Baywatch. But so when I was watching, I was like, who's the target audience here? Because there are a lot of men, gratuitous shots of men shirtless, like lifting weights and boxing and running. And then there are lots of women women on the beach in bikinis, and they do like these shots of them, of their stomachs and of their chest, of them rubbing sunscreen. There was some sunscreen, and I'll get back to that too. Some sunscreen on themselves, and women in bikinis running, and the Baywatch girls running. So I was like, who was the target audience for this? And so I Googled it, and it's Wikipedia, so it might not be accurate, but they did a study, and the audience that watched it the most was 18 to 24-year-old women, because they liked seeing empowered women. Because and I will back this up, the Baywatch lifeguards, at least in season 1, are badass, and they are like, they get stuff done. They stand up to the male lifeguards. They stand up to the mean and toxic masculinity of the guys on the beach. They are badasses. So I totally.
But it is a body positive girl power.
So it kind of is a body positive, but then there's other stuff. So now that I'm an expert on 4 episodes, I have some comments that I wanted to share, and I know we're running out of time. And I do think that I am actually now a Baywatch fan, and I will be watching more of the episodes. I don't think I'll be watching all 11 seasons, but the last 2 seasons include Iowa's own Jason Momoa. So I might skip a few in the middle and then go watch him in Hawaii, because even I'm going to objectify him a little bit. He's beautiful.
There's just so many little treats we get from doing this podcast, and one is becoming Baywatch watchers.
Oh my God. So the other thing that was spectacular is this is 1989, right? So the costume department is phenomenal. Most of the guys have mullets. None of the mullets are attractive. I'm objectifying again, clearly. The storyline in the pilot is about a girl who gets saved by Parker Stevenson and then becomes obsessed with him and stalks him and tries to murder his wife. And as I was watching it, I was like, Shanae. So there was another callback to there was a Bachelor callback on Baywatch because I could see Shanae maybe doing that. So some fun facts about Baywatch. Apparently, Leonardo DiCaprio was a finalist to play David Hasselhoff's son, Hobie. He did not get it because he was too old and he was 15. And he has denied this, but David Hasselhoff at the time said he was too young to have that old of a son. So instead, they cast like a 12-year-old. Okay. David Spade was on episode 4, as was Mariska Hargitay. And David Spade played a bully, and he was not convincing because I know him and other things. And I was like, David Spade, you're not a bully. But that was really funny. I think the actors thought it was a drama because they played it like NYPD Blue. And the script did not back it up, that it was like a serious hour-long evening drama. I mean, it's ridiculous, and I loved it. They did several slow-mo montages with music while lifeguards were like working out and pumping iron and thinking reflectively into the sunset, and I'm all in. According to the show's makeup artist, Joanna Connell, Baywatch went through 40 bottles of sunscreen a month in order to keep the cast free from sunburn and melanoma, and they had to use at least 15 SPF. And that was another thing I noticed. Everyone was very red and pink. And this was a callback to the Baywatch part of The Bachelor when she had them put sunscreen on, when Nicole Eggert had them put sunscreen on each other. And I was like, that's good. We're promoting skin health. We are both proud of our skin, and I use a lot of sunscreen. I'm sure you do as well. Let's keep that going. NBC almost fired Erica Eleniak after she posed nude for Playboy. And she was originally cast over Terry Hatcher, Nev Campbell, Alicia Silverstone, and Sandra Bullock. All of those women auditioned for Baywatch.
How do you like do Baywatch and then they have a problem with Playboy? I don't like this is hilarious.
Really? She's basically only showing the tiny little bit that you can't. And like when she's running, this cut of her swimsuit is that you can always see side boob on Erica Eleniak when her character Shanae is running. That's her
side boob is totally hot.
Shanae.
I get it.
The ocean was so full of garbage and other suspect substances that medics had to disinfect the actors as soon as they got out of the water, spraying every orifice to get them clean. Well done, America, on keeping the Pacific Ocean clean. Goodness.
And like way to risk actors' body health for our entertainment.
At its height, Baywatch reached a weekly audience of 1.1 billion people in 142 countries.
Yeah.
What? And then now that we're talking, this is my last fun fact. We're talking about body positivity, right? That's the whole point of this show. There was a clause in the actors' contracts that they couldn't gain more than 5 pounds over the weight they were cast in. So they had to stay at a very specific weight as the whole time that they were on the show. And most actors were only on for like 2 seasons. David Hasselhoff was on the longest. I'm like a miniature human. So like 5 pounds, like I like change sizes if I gain 5 pounds, for my husband who's like 6'6", he like gains 5 pounds like
all the time, like, and loses like that, like kind of fluctuation is like hardly anything for him.
Yeah.
So like I also think that like that's a very different thing for different bodies.
Yep. And you can guess which ones were scrutinized more than the others.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, and the swimsuits would get skimpier as the seasons went on. But I'm here to say that there were more dead bodies than I was expecting. And there were way more mullets than I was prepared for. But I liked it, and I'm going to watch more of it. And I think Nicole Eggert was fun to have on The Bachelor. I think that this was a weird thing to bookend when you start the show about body positivity. But those girls rocked their swimsuits. They rocked the slow-mo. They rocked. The thing they didn't rock was the CPR. All of the people that they were rescuing would have died. I'm trained. I have CPR license certification, I guess, and those dummies would all be dead the way the girls were giving CPR.
So, we're at the point in the podcast that was amazing, where we need lessons learned. And I want to say my biggest lesson from today's conversation is absolutely that Baywatch could be empowering. And absolutely. That it was actually a murder mystery show. Who knew?
Murder mystery / like TGIF, because there was often like music at the end of Full House. There was always the R.I.P. Bob Saget. There was always that music and the family coming together and talking, and that's a lot how the Baywatch episodes end too. Like they're laughing together, they're walking down the beach, there's music playing over them, they're smiling. It's like, this is a family like sitcom / murder mystery / very serious drama.
So
all in one. 2 thumbs up. I loved it. Loved it.
I'm directing a show in April, and it makes me think that I definitely need to create a slow motion montage at some point. So I now am giving myself a challenge to figure out how to incorporate that somewhere into the production.
I like it.
What have you learned? What did you learn? What's your takeaway?
My takeaway is, if you are going to make food for the house, you need to make enough for everyone and plan on someone being selfish with, let me see if I can say this right, selfish with shellfish.
That was amazing.
So that if someone is selfish and takes 9 pieces, everyone else at least gets 3 or 4 still. Make enough. Always make more food than you think you need, because then you can have leftovers and throw it in the freezer.
I love it. I hope that all of our listeners are staying safe and healthy out there. And I just want to say, I hope this episode gave you something to gnaw on, some food for thought. I feel like we were really sizzling, cooking it up here. So,
it was a scampi of information.
Absolutely. Really had some grit to it. All right.
Gumbo-licious. Now I want gumbo.
Have a good day, y'all.
Have a good day. Bye.
You've been listening to Bachelor with your hosts, Drs. Danielle Dick McGeough and Bill Henniger. All opinions expressed on this show are solely the opinion of the person who spoke them. If you like our podcast, please consider following us, leaving us a 5-star rating, and a positive review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also, please share with your friends, family, and other ardent Bachelor content lovers. If you have comments or questions you would like us to address on the show, you can email us at batchademia@gmail.com or on the Twitter with the handle @batchademia. Thanks for listening.